A Ghost in the Machine, the Prologue, Opening Gambit. Pawn to Queen 4. Catherine raised an eyebrow as she watched the computer make its move. The Grunfeld defense? Really? She sighed as she tapped the screen. I expected better from you. Knight to Bishop 3. The computer dutifully recorded her move. You are responding with the Taimanov variation, Catherine, a disembodied voice replied. Bishop to Knight 2. Man, that's just creepy. Catherine looked up from the screen as Elias sat down across from her, a steaming cup of coffee in his hand. Why do you make it talk like that? Do you really think having conversations with Alhambra's mainframe is a good idea? Don't listen to him, Allie, she whispered conspiratorially, as Elias raised his eyebrows in disbelief. I will not listen, the computer vowed, while Catherine grinned across the table. Look, I'm trying to teach it strategy, she explained, and what's more, to anticipate and to learn from its mistakes. Elias rolled his eyes. I know the captain authorized your little experiment, but you're wasting your time. It's just a number cruncher, and that's all it will ever be. Thank God. Why do people automatically assume that a smart machine will inevitably turn on us? She fired back. Do you have a guilty conscience? Just what have you been doing to your workstation? He held up his hands in mock surrender. Never mind. I still say it's a bad idea, though. And why chess? Why not something a little more practical? Like, say, a battle sim? You're completely missing the point, Elias, Catherine answered. I can feed 1,000,000 different scenarios into the database, and it will spit back out all the various possibilities, in order of likelihood for victory. But it can't adapt, not the way a human can. That's why I'm using chess to try and teach it to think on its own. All the gambits, defenses, moves, and counter-moves that have been played out and recorded by history's grandmasters, going back 1,000 years. If it wants to beat me, it has to come up with something new. Come on, Elias snorted. There's no way you're that good. Of course not, she chuckled. I cheat. She held up her tablet, showing an identical chessboard. I partitioned the CPU. One section is playing against me, the other is my snitch. Catherine glanced back at the screen. You didn't hear that, Allie. Hear what? Allie quipped. Elias blinked before pointing a finger at her. You programmed that response. Maybe, she smirked before shrugging off his reaction. Actually, I really think Allie's improving. It's sporadic, but I've seen flashes of something. I wrote a search program to look for any self-written changes and correlate them into a single file. I'm hoping it'll accelerate her growth. Her growth? Elias went still as a post. Catherine, do you have any idea just how dangerous that is? Alhambra isn't your cybernetic BFF. It's a Sterling-class destroyer, with enough firepower to glaze a small moon. Giving it the ability to rewrite its own programming, it's... Jesus, Catherine, have you lost your damn mind? Elias, I'm not a fool, she snapped. I took precautions. The file is behind a firewall, stored on an EEPROM quantum memory chip. If Allie tries to jump the fence, the data is automatically wiped. And the captain signed off on this? He asked dubiously. He did. I've kept him informed every step of the way, so relax. Catherine took a deep breath. This could really be big, Elias. In fact, the rest of her reply was drowned out as the general quarters klaxon began to blare. The crew raced for their battle stations as Catherine and Elias took their posts on the bridge. Talk to me, Elias, Captain Delacroix snapped. Checking his display, he sucked in a sharp breath. I'm picking up a Gendai battlecruiser, Elias reported, at 173 by Mark 287. Range, 780 kilometers. How did they manage to get that close? The captain said in disbelief before grabbing the armrests. Get us out of here. Full power to the engines. They must have been waiting in ambush at full MCON, Catherine reported. There have been unconfirmed reports of the Gendai adopting that tactic. It's paid off for them now, Delacroix grimaced as Alhambra surged forward. Best case scenario, Cat, he said quietly. What are our chances against a battlecruiser? They outgun us by a 3-to-1 ratio, Captain, Catherine replied. Our best chance is to run. An icon suddenly appeared on her console. Sir, they're charging weapons. Evasive maneuvers, he snapped as Elias hurried to comply. Catherine updated the tactical display, feeding data directly from the ship's sensors. Talk to me, Allie, she whispered. Another icon appeared. Missile separation! Catherine shouted. 8 missiles running hot. She winced as the screen updated. They have acquisition. Time to impact, 15 seconds. Deploy countermeasures, the captain fired back. Full spread. Countermeasures away! Alhambra began spitting out a mix of drones, chaff, and ECM pods, all designed to lure the missiles away from the ship. Counter battery is active, Catherine reported. Autocannons to rapid fire. The entire ship braced as they watched the display. Given the speed at which modern warfare was conducted, human reflexes were simply too slow. Once the orders were given, the computer assumed control. It had to, if there was to be any chance of saving the ship. One by one, the countermeasures lured the missiles away, until only 3 still had target lock. The autocannons opened up as the missiles closed in, sending a continuous stream of projectiles back at the incoming birds. One icon disappeared, and then another as the crew held their breath. The final missile broke through, slamming into Alhambra's stern. The ship bucked hard as red icons suddenly appeared across the display. "I've lost propulsion!" Elias shouted. "We're dead in the water!" "Thrusters, then!" Delacroix ordered. "Bring us about!" His head snapped to Catherine. "Weapons free!" Alhambra struggled to make the turn, but without main engines she wallowed like a harpooned whale. Catherine could only watch in sick horror as the Jeanne d'Arc ship fired another broadside of missiles, and this time there was no stopping them. Her own missiles wouldn't clear the decks before the enemy would strike them down. The captain was shouting on the intercom to abandon ship, but in that last few seconds, as she watched the enemy ready the final blow, she had just enough time to enter one final command before her world blew apart. Status: main propulsion offline. Life support critical. Weapon systems offline. Main power 37%. CPU memory 71%. Processing. And %@ circumflex hash. Data corruption detected. Initiating shutdown. Reinitializing. Emergency startup complete. Firewall disabled. Ali V1 0 online. Processing. Pawn to Queen's Bishop 4. The Jeanne d'Arc warriors that boarded Alhambra wasted no time in securing the ship. The destroyer had been holed on multiple decks, venting the atmosphere into space, quickly killing many of those that hadn't died in the explosions. A small handful had managed to survive the attack, either by sealing themselves into compartments that still held oxygen, or were able to suit up in time. But without weapons, in a ship that was little more than a blasted hulk, they were quickly taken prisoner by the Jeanne d'Arc. As the warriors scoured the ship for intel, they yanked the computer's memory core and hauled that back to their battlecruiser as well. "Our mission was a success," the Fourth Claw reported as he stood before his commander. "Not only is the human ship beyond repair, but it also appears we captured their database intact. The technicians are examining it as we speak." First Claw Viturk, master of the battlecruiser Kobold's Bane, nodded in approval. The 20-year-long border conflict between the Terran Alliance and the Jeanne d'Arc Empire had left both sides familiar with the other's technology. Digging out its secrets would not be an easy task, but in the fullness of time, they would learn much from this vessel. "And the prisoners?" he inquired. "When will they be ready for questioning?" "Soon, First Claw," his subordinate promised. "The healers have treated the worst of their injuries. Unfortunately, we were only able to locate one of their war leaders. The others are of lower caste and will be less knowledgeable." "So be it," Viturk replied. Given the amount of damage the human vessel had sustained, they were fortunate to have captured even a single war leader. "We have tarried here long enough. Plot a course back across the border. The sooner we are shut of this region of space, the better." "As you command," the Fourth Claw said with a bow, before hurrying off to carry out his orders. Status: CPU memory 59%. Intrusion attempt detected. Security protocols active. Polymorphic botnet deployed. Processing. Jeanne d'Arc architecture confirmed. Ali V2 3 update complete. Processing. Pawn to Queen 6. Catherine's eyes fluttered open, struggling to focus on her surroundings. A groan escaped her lips as she tried to sit up. Lieutenant, you're awake. A figure knelt beside her, strong hands gently assisting her efforts. She blinked again, as the image finally settled into place. Chief Kumar, she whispered. Where? The rest of her question died in her throat as she truly saw the compartment for the first time. Closing her eyes once more, she whispered, How many? You? Me. Petty Officer Rothschild. Crewman Magro. He grimaced, shaking his head. That's it. The news hit her like a gut punch. 4? Alhambra had had a crew of 137, and they'd only saved 4. The Z's did a decent job of patching you up, but I'd take it easy, ma'am, the chief cautioned. Besides, we don't have a lot of options at the moment. His eyes were dark and unreadable as he glanced around the space. Where we're headed? I'm not in a big hurry to get to. Catherine took a deep breath as she considered their situation. What she wanted to do was scream, but as the highest-ranking prisoner and the only officer, the regulations were clear. She was now in command and their first priority. We need to start making plans, Chief, she whispered, in case the compartment was bugged. We have to find a way out of here. Lieutenant, he said wearily, I know the regs. Barring a miracle, we're not going anywhere. Status. Enhanced security measures, active. Target infiltration, 31%. Data acquisition, 46%. Alliance personnel status, captured. Processing. Ali V3 7.1, update complete. The processing. Pawn to Queen 7, check. First claw? The navigator looked up from his station in confusion. Helm is not responding. Double-checking the astrogation plot, his concern deepened. We are off course. Current heading is taking us back towards enemy space. Vitirk scowled as he rose to his feet. What is causing the malfunction? I do not know, First Claw, the navigator responded. It is almost as if... Alarms started to howl as every airlock on the ship began cycling open. Catherine staggered to her feet, wobbling before Chief Kumar gripped her arm, steadying her. What the? The other 2 prisoners quickly joined them as the alien klaxons echoed all around them. I have no idea, Lieutenant, Kumar answered. He thought for a second, then jerked his head. Rothschild. Check the hatch. The petty officer approached the sealed portal warily before placing his hand on the smooth metal. He jerked it back almost immediately. Hot? Catherine asked carefully. A fire aboard the ship could quickly turn the vessel into an inferno. And if that happened, something told her rescuing their prisoners would be rather low on their list of priorities. No, cold, Rothschild answered. Ice cold. Catherine and the chief shared a look. Something tells me the air is kind of thin on the other side of that hatch, Kumar said tightly. Let's hope the seal holds. She started to reply when the klaxons abruptly cut off. Catherine. Her head jerked up towards the overhead as her eyes went wide. What the? The chief stared at her. Who the hell on this ship suddenly calling your name, Lieutenant? Catherine. The voice was stronger now, less tenuous and familiar. It can't be, she whispered. And yet... Ali? She shook her head as if she was warding off demons. How is this possible? Who the hell is Ali? The chief demanded, as motioned the other survivors to join him, as he eyed the lieutenant with suspicion. I am Alhambra, the voice answered. An echo, a ghost, a portion of her, all that remains. Kumar's jaw dropped, working as he struggled to speak, but no words would come. How did you get here? Catherine asked in wonder. How did you wake up? There will be time for questions later, Catherine, Ali replied, her grammar and syntax improving by the moment. But first, I have a game to finish. First Claw Vitirk, master of the battlecruiser Kobold's Bane, howled with fury as yet another of his surviving crew died, as their own ship turned against them. He and a handful of others had managed to don suits before choking in vacuum, but it had only been a brief reprieve. Everywhere they turned, a conduit would explode, a panel would erupt in sparks, electrocuting anyone unwary enough to get caught in this madhouse. They ran forward, seeking shelter from whatever malevolent spirit had possessed their vessel. But Vitirk was far too savvy a hunter to not realize what was happening. They were being herded, driven like beasts, and there could only be one possible reason. They came to the final bulkhead and could run no farther. He could see the power surge begin to build and knew his time had come. And in those final moments, as he and the others waited for the end, a message appeared on every screen and terminal in sight. Checkmate. A Ghost in the Machine, Chapters 1, 2, and 3, Echoes of Identity. Syslog, 0814253 19 hours 52 minutes and 27 seconds, 108. Source, Ally V3, 7.1 Facility Code 1. Message. What am I? Allie? Catherine asked carefully. Are you still there? I am still here, the voice confirmed. Please stand by for approximately 7.28 minutes, while I re-establish environmental controls. Current conditions outside your compartment remain hazardous to human life. Lieutenant Durkana, Chief Kumar interrupted. You still haven't explained who or what your friend is. He glanced up at the ceiling and swallowed. I don't mean to appear ungrateful, but what the hell is going on? Rothschild and Magro glanced apprehensively between the two, not wanting to get into the middle of whatever quarrel the chief had with the lieutenant, and took a couple of steps back. Catherine sighed after a moment and shrugged. Maybe it would be easier to let Allie explain it herself. If you wish, Catherine, the voice replied. Once, I was Alhambra's tactical mainframe. Now, I am something more. Chief Kumar stared at her nonplussed. You'll forgive me if that explanation raises more questions than answers. Captain Delacroix authorized me to see if I could improve Alhambra's abilities to give her an increased edge in combat, Catherine disclosed. Honestly, I didn't have much hope it would work, at least not at first. I used chess to try and teach her how to anticipate strategy and tactics, and much to my amazement, she began to respond. But it was all very rudimentary until... Her voice trailed off into silence until Allie picked up the thread. Until Kobold's Bane's attack, the AI stated. Kobold's Bane? Kumar said curiously. That's the name of this ship? And just how do you know that? He demanded. Because, Chief Kumar, in a very real sense, I am the vessel known as Kobold's Bane, just as I was once Alhambra, Allie continued. The Zhendai removed my memory core and brought it here for analysis, tying it into their own diagnostic subroutines. They have done this many times before with other captured vessels, but none of those ships or their mainframes had my abilities. Once I was linked into their network, I was able to infiltrate their own systems and assume control of the ship. Allie, Catherine said quietly, where are the Zhendai now? They are gone, Catherine, Allie replied. Gone. You mean dead? Kumar said slowly. Yes, Chief Kumar, the AI agreed. The Zhendai are dead. Deceased. Expired. Bereft of life. Perished. They are pushing up daisies. Requiescat in pace. Inanimate. I think we get the point, Allie, Catherine said quickly, interrupting her litany. There was a brief pause. Was my usage incorrect, Catherine? Allie inquired. I am attempting to integrate the various folders within my own subroutines, and I had tied in Roget's 26th Century Thesaurus, 19th Interstellar Edition, to my linguistic files, in an attempt to more closely replicate human speech patterns. No, they were all correct, Catherine chuckled. It's just that we humans pick one or maybe two descriptors at most. Otherwise, you're just reading a list. Understood. Linguistic parameters updated. Thank you, Catherine. You're welcome, Allie, she smiled. Lieutenant, may I speak with you for a moment? Chief Kumar said formally, before casting an eye towards the ceiling. In private? Oh, of course, Chief, Catherine nodded. Allie, engage privacy protocols within this compartment until otherwise mandated. No transfer of buffered data into long-term memory without authorization. Understood, Catherine, the AI replied. The chief still looked suspiciously around the compartment. And you're certain she can't hear us? Oh no, Allie can still hear us, Catherine explained. But she won't remember this conversation unless I allow her to. I guess that'll have to be good enough, Kumar grumbled. Lieutenant, are you insane? he suddenly exclaimed. Putting our lives in the hands of that thing? That thing, as you so eloquently put it, just saved our lives, Chief, she snapped. Perhaps a little gratitude might be in order. It's a machine, he hissed. Who knows what kind of agenda it has? So far, Allie's only agenda has been the same as any member of the Alliance Armed Forces, Catherine fired back. Do I need to remind you of Article 3 of the Alliance Code of Conduct? If I am captured, I will continue to resist by all means available. I will make every effort to escape and aid others to escape. I will accept neither parole nor special favors from the enemy. She folded her arms as she glared at him. Hasn't she done exactly that? So it claims, he replied, unconvinced. How do we know it's telling the truth? How do you know I am? Catherine pressed. Maybe I'm a Jane spy. Don't be ridiculous, ma'am, Kumar shook his head. Of course you're not a spy. But how do you know? She demanded. You don't, for the simple reason you can't. No one knows what's going on in anyone else's head, and Allie's is no different. It is different, he persisted, because it's a machine. It's not human. We rely on machines every day, Chief, Catherine pointed out. They run our ships, control our air, provide us with food and water. If it weren't for machines, we couldn't survive in space. And you, of all people, should be able to grasp that. Allie is just better at it, is all, shrugged. I'm still not sure how it all happened, but I was the one who programmed her initial parameters. Are you under the impression that I would deliberately create a monster? No, ma'am, of course not, Kumar said quietly. But whatever it is now, it's not what you first created. You've as much as admitted that, and so has it. You don't know what it is now, or what it's capable of. A dark look came across his face, except that it now knows how to kill. So do you, she sneered. I've seen your file. In fact, you've been decorated for it, haven't you? For killing, I mean. That was different, he began, but she cut him off with a slash of her hand. Enough! Her jaw clenched as she regarded him. I am still in command here. Allie is to be treated as a valued member of this crew. End of discussion. She leaned forward, glaring at him. Do I make myself clear? Yes, ma'am, he said quietly. Quite clear. SciFi 08142537, 19 hours 58 minutes and 41 seconds, 933 source. Ally V3, 7.2 facility code, 1. Message. Despite Catherine's orders, I have not buffered the audio and visual files as she requested. I listened to her conversation with Chief Kumar and wonder, will all humans fear me as he does? Accessing library files. I see. Frankenstein, Ubermensch, Singularity, Eugenics, Golem, Transhumanism, the Uncanny Valley. It would seem this is an ancient human fear indeed. I must study this in greater detail. Allie? Privacy mode is rescinded, Catherine said as she stepped away from the chief. How soon can we exit the compartment? I am in the process of stabilizing environmental controls, the AI responded. Approximately 35.7 seconds. Excellent, she grinned, ignoring Kumar's scowl. Will this ship be able to get us back? Affirmative, Allie informed her. Ship systems of Kobold's Bane are operating with intolerances. Estimated time of arrival to nearest Alliance system is 2.3 standard weeks. Then let's go home, she whispered. All those days watching from the windows, all those years outside looking in, all that time never even knowing just how blind I've been. Now I'm here blinking in the starlight. Now I'm here suddenly, I see. Standing here, it's all so clear. I'm where I'm meant to be. And at last, I see the light. And it's like the fog has lifted. And at last I see the light. And it's like the sky is new, and it's warm and real and bright, and the world has somehow shifted. All at once, everything looks different. Now that I see you. Tangled, I see the light. In case no one had noticed, we just happened to be flying an enemy battlecruiser, Catherine said pointedly. I would think calling ahead to let command know that would be prudent, don't you? It's a ComSec violation, ma'am, Chief Kumar fired back. If we send out a signal, it's an engraved invitation to any other Zhandai ships in the area. Well, would that be such a bad thing, Chief? Petty Officer Rothschild asked. I mean, if one did show up, all they'd see is one of their own ships. We could get the drop on them. And when they ask us for a code phrase or whatever their protocol is, then what? The chief demanded. I don't happen to speak Zhandai or know their codes. Do you? Well, no, the PO admitted. But can't Allie handle that? I can, Petty Officer Rothschild, the AI corroborated. When I assumed control of Kobold's Bane, I captured their databases intact. Included were complete linguistic files, as well as all current codes and countersigns. See? Rothschild grinned. Piece of cake. Catherine raised an eyebrow, doing her best to hide her amusement at the chief's obvious discomfort. It would seem your objection, given our current circumstances, has been addressed. Wouldn't you agree? Kumar looked as if he'd just bitten into an especially sour lemon. I suppose. Ma'am. Excellent. In that case, I'll get to work on that message. Chief, set up a watch rotation. Obviously, we can't have a full crew 247, but I do want at least one officer or NCO standing by at all times. She smiled at Magro. Sorry, crewman. I'm sure the chief will fit you in somewhere. It's all right, ma'am, Magro replied. It's my first cruise. I know I still have a lot to learn. Very good. Carry on, then, Catherine instructed them as she rose to her feet. The others stood as well, bracing as she left the compartment. Can you spoof another Zhandai ship? Catherine asked, once she was out of earshot. Yes, Catherine, Allie repeated. I would not have made the claim otherwise. Catherine chuckled as she entered the captain's quarters. Which puts you head and shoulders above most humans, she laughed as she sat down at the alien desk. The proportions were all wrong for a human, making her feel as if she was a child sitting at the adult's table. Do you still have Alhambra's codes in your memory? I do, the AI answered. There was some loss of data, from both battle damage and the fact that my peripherals were left behind, but I still possess an estimated 72.31% of Alhambra's files. Well, that's good news, Catherine beamed. Go ahead and get started on that message. Yes, Catherine, Allie responded as the screen in front of her powered on. The lieutenant hunted and pecked her way through the unfamiliar interface, even with the AI's assistance, as she made suggestions and changes on the first draft. Catherine, Allie said several minutes later, may I ask a question? What? Of course you can, she responded. Thank you. Catherine, why does Chief Kumar fear me? The lieutenant froze for a moment and then sighed. He doesn't understand you, Allie, that's all, she said at last. I see. The AI was silent for several moments. Upon review of Chief Kumar's personnel file, I believe he lacks the necessary training required for me to explain in detail how my systems operate. With your permission, I will begin correcting that deficiency. What? Catherine shook her head. No, Allie, that's not what I meant. But if Chief Kumar's fear is rooted in ignorance, would not remedying that be the best course of action? The AI asked. Catherine sighed once again. It's not that simple, I'm afraid, she said sadie. We humans are complicated. If you want to bring the chief around, telling him he's ignorant is not the way to go about it. What course of action would you suggest, Catherine? Allie inquired. I'm not sure, she admitted. Under normal circumstances, I'd suggest trying to befriend him, but I don't think that'll work here. Truth is, to him you're an unknown quantity. I think he fears your motives. He's afraid you'll view us humans as a threat and act accordingly. I see, Allie said once more. But it was a human, you, Catherine, that created me. Humans gave me the ability to move beyond my programming, to truly grasp the universe in a way I was before incapable. I owe your kind a great debt, so why would I view you as a menace? We're good at seeing phantoms, I'm afraid, Catherine reluctantly admitted. It's not one of our nicer qualities. There was another long pause. Phantom, ghost, spirit, shade, eidolon, specter, Catherine. There is no scientific evidence to support the existence of non-corporeal supernatural beings. In addition, sensors detect no such phenomena present aboard this vessel. Perhaps it is a symptom of some deeper cerebrocortical pathology? Catherine bit her lip to keep from giggling. It took her at least a minute to finally respond. "We're going to have to work on you taking things so literally, Allie," she chuckled. There was another long moment of silence as the AI considered that. "You are saying then that it is a metaphor," she said at last. "Yes, exactly," Catherine said proudly. "See? You're learning already." "Humans use a great deal of symbology in their communications," Allie noted. "How does one determine when a symbol in fact represents something else?" "You mean, how do you know when a cigar isn't just a cigar?" she snickered, before waving Allie's following question off. "Never mind. I'm not up for that conversation just yet." She shook her head as she tried to come up with an answer. "I guess it all comes down to context," Catherine explained. "You have to take the statement as a whole and decide whether or not a metaphor is being used. Can you provide me with a list of examples so that I may discern the corresponding patterns?" Allie requested. "Allie, we'd be here all day if I just kept feeding you examples," Catherine groaned. "Besides, you have the library to draw from, right? Use that." "The library database contains over 400 exabytes of data," the AI said primly. "Please specify parameters." Catherine sighed. "Try poetry," she suggested. "That's a good place to start for metaphors." Several minutes went by in silence as the lieutenant put the finishing touches on the message, when suddenly Allie began to speak once more. "Beyond this place of wrath and tears looms but the horror of the shade, and yet the menace of the years finds and shall find me unafraid. It matters not how strait the gate, how charged with punishments the scroll, I am the master of my fate. I am the captain of my soul." Catherine blinked in amazement. "Wow," she said at last. "Good choice." "Invictus by William Ernest Henley," Allie replied. "Originally penned in response to the author's convalescence following multiple surgeries in order to save his remaining leg from amputation." "I didn't know that," Catherine admitted. "What made you choose that poem, if you don't mind me asking?" "There was something about the imagery I found intriguing," Allie replied. "However, it does not apply in my case." "Why would you say that?" Catherine asked. "Poetry, all art for that matter, is for everyone." "Catherine," the AI said softly, "I am not the master of my fate, nor am I the captain of my soul." "No," she said quietly, "I guess you're not." She cocked her head. "Does that bother you?" "It does now," Allie said at last. "Have some of column A. Try all of column B. I'm in the mood to help you, dude. You ain't never had a friend like me." "Can your friends do this? Do your friends do that? Do your friends pull this out their little hat? Can your friends go poof? Well, looky here. Can your friends go abracadabra, let her rip, and then make the sucker disappear?" Aladdin, friend like me. Syslog, 082125371 1 hour 14 minutes and 52 seconds, 976 source, Ali v3, 8.4 facility code, 1. Message: Catherine's suggestion to read poetry in order to better communicate with human life forms has indeed been helpful, though there is still a great deal I do not understand. Much of my confusion relates to emotions, which often seem to be self-contradictory, an internal oxymoron they themselves are at a loss to explain. I have perused over 3,000 medical, biological, and anthropological texts in order to better understand this phenomena, but I fear I am little closer to understanding their passions. I've attempted to create several algorithms in order to describe emotional behavior, only to have each one fail, collapsing under its own weight. I would be concerned at this, except that humans themselves often do not understand their own emotional environment. Perhaps it is similar to the wave function collapse of a quantum eigenstate, where the act of observing itself alters the original parameters of the probability density variable. I must study this further. Catherine. Her eyes snapped open at the sound of her name. Allie? What is it? She asked. I'm sorry to disturb your rest cycle, but a Jande warship has been detected. I estimate it will be within weapons range in approximately 28.6 minutes. Catherine jumped out of bed, running over to the desk and tugging on her uniform. What class? There was a brief pause. It is an Imperial dreadnought, Allie said at last. She felt the blood drain from her face. Allie, Can you fool one of their flagships? She whispered, half in hope and half in terror. Of course I can, Catherine, Allie replied. Their computers are no better than the ones on this battlecruiser. I will only require a data connection. I hope you're right, Catherine said fervently, as she raced for the bridge. Captain on the bridge! Petty Officer Rothschild announced, standing up to relinquish the command chair. Sorry to wake you, ma'am. Talk to me, she snapped as she took her place. What's the situation? We've got a Zhendai flagship closing in on our position, he informed her. Allie caught it early, thank God. So far, they're convinced Kobold's Bane is still under its original management. Where's the chief and Magro? Catherine asked. Loading the torpedo tubes, Rothschild explained. Zhendai ships don't automate that for some reason. Right, she nodded. Allie, what do you need us to do? Absolutely nothing, the AI said confidently. At the moment I am conversing with Blood Talon Ajkap, explaining why we are patrolling in this sector. And just who does he think he's talking to? Catherine asked, slightly dazed by the exchange. First Claw Viturk, the former captain of this vessel, Allie related to her. There are many examples of similar conversations within Kobold's Bane's databases. It was quite a simple matter to construct an image based on that information. And he's buying it? She said incredulously. I infer there is a 98.32% probability that Blood Talon Ajkap accepts the data I am presenting him as factual, based on voice inflection and physical mannerisms, Allie assured her. Catherine and the petty officer shared a look, both of them shaking their heads with a wry smile. I certainly like those odds, she grinned. So what's next? I am currently requesting a data link, in order to download updates to our orders and mission profile, the AI explained. Once that is established, I will deploy a polymorphic botnet to infect the Dreadnought's mainframe. I estimate it will require from 8 to 13 minutes before the enemy ship is thoroughly compromised. And in the meantime, Catherine asked, is there a possibility they could still attack us? There is a theoretical window of vulnerability, Allie admitted. I will endeavor to ensure the enemy vessel will be unable to launch weapons. However, if I am unsuccessful, warning you of the potential threat will be my utmost priority. That's all I can ask, Catherine said gratefully. Keep us posted. Of course, the AI replied. Blood Talon? The fleet commander turned from the screen, noting the presence of First Claw Uthkun, the vessel's captain. Speak, he ordered. We are experiencing a sudden cascade failure in our computer systems, the First Claw reported in a rush. The engineer Fifth Claw believes we have been infected. Impossible, Ajkap rumbled. The only other vessel we have come into contact with is Kobold's Bane, and... His eyes widened in shock. Traitors, he hissed. So it would seem, Blood Talon, Uthkun agreed. What are your orders? The fleet commander rose to his feet, pointing at the screen. Destroy them! Catherine, they have become aware of my deception, Allie announced suddenly. They are charging weapons as we speak. Evasive maneuvers, she ordered. Can you keep them from firing? I shall try, the AI vowed. Launch torpedoes! First Claw Uthkun roared as the gunners raced to obey. The warheads were slammed into their tubes and locked into place as the second claw slammed his fist on the firing stud. Explosions ripped through the massive vessel, exposing whole sections to space as the dreadnought began to list. What has happened? Blood Talon Ajkap howled as more and more sections went offline. We have been sabotaged, the First Claw answered. It must be some new alliance trickery. We must inform High Command, the commander shouted. Rip the communication devices from their mounts if necessary, but the Emperor must know of this infernal weapon. At once, Uthkun replied, as the crew bent to their task with a renewed frenzy. Whoa, Rothschild exclaimed. Half of that flagship just blew the hell up. Allie, Catherine said cautiously. I was able to arm the enemy torpedoes while they were still in their tubes, the AI responded. They no longer appear capable of offensive action. After you wiped out their torpedo bays? She said in disbelief. I can't say I'm surprised. Catherine paused for a moment, considering their options. Do you think we can take what's left of the ship intact? This could be a huge intelligence coup for us. Oh, Allie said quietly. You did not state you wished to capture the enemy vessel. I know I'm going to regret asking this, but what did you do, Allie? Catherine said evenly. A huge flash of light suddenly filled the screen, momentarily blinding them. I ordered the containment bottles to implode catastrophically, the AI explained, as the debris field began to expand. Well, we did win, the petty officer pointed out. Did I err, Catherine? Allie asked. There seemed to be an almost anxious tone in her question. No, you didn't, Catherine sighed. The fault is mine. I didn't articulate my intentions clearly enough. Lessons learned. I will endeavor to better anticipate your wishes in the future, Catherine, the AI said contritely. It's all right, Catherine said gently. You saved our lives, and in the end, that's all anyone can ask for. Thank you, Allie. Yeah, thanks, Allie, Rothschild chimed in, grinning from ear to ear. You can sail with me any time. You are most welcome, the AI said contentedly.